Great, great. How are you?
Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Phones are connected. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Ah, there they are. Okay. Let
Can you hear
me
me?
make, yes. I think I'm gonna
Yes.
disconnect them though and see.
I hope my audio is good. I don't have earphones.
Okay, how is my audio? Oops.
Good, good. Let me just put on, it's kind of important for the podcast though, so let's
Okay.
probably
Do you
do
prefer
earphones.
do earphones? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Let,
I have some in my bag here.
okay, cool. I'll put them on. I'm just, can you hear that there's like a construction on my street? Can you hear it?
No, it's fine.
Okay, cool.
Zoom is pretty good at canceling that stuff.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad. I'm like, oh my God, so frustrating. It's just sometimes, let me know. Sometimes my headphones, like the speaker doesn't come through clear.
Yeah,
I have other ones I can try if. Okay. Is that
cool.
better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's more clear. There's
Okay.
all this like work with all people are, everybody uses microphones, but I just feel like it's just so much hassle to have an extra device that you need to constantly think about and have plugged in and ready to go. Earphones
Totally.
basically do the same job.
Have you been doing this for a long time?
I was doing it for a long time and then, or for a while, and then I stopped, and I've switched to mostly written content
Hmm.
in the last 6 months to a year, and then I'm doing a lot of short form video,
Hmm.
and that's been benefiting me. But I think on Substack, I've noticed in particular, a podcast is has gained a lot more interest, and I'll probably post it on LinkedIn too. Um, but yeah, I think podcasting, it's like a bit more of a deeper dive, and it's also it's got I've got more opportunity to like dive deeper with the founder and understand more about their world and the business and how it's grown, or what the strategy is and what are the challenges and what's the current focus, than if I'm just talking to people one on one or at a networking event or something. So, and I'm always interested in shining a light on more. Honestly, like when we talked and like actually set this up, I was more focused on. I'm still focused on San Diego founders, but I'm even more focused now on specifically technical founders who are avoiding distribution and marketing, or aren't super clued in on how to build distribution and marketing channels for their businesses so that they can get the word out more. And I see that you're doing a lot of that already.
Right.
Um, but I'm sure there's always like, things you could learn or different ideas to sharpen up on that I might be able to help with, or we can dive into. And I also can just help with publicity. I mean, I have a pretty big audience at this point. So it definitely won't hurt to get another mention about avocado health out there. Um,
Appreciate it.
yeah, yeah. So cool. Yeah. Well, I think we can just dive into it, since
Okay.
I don't want to. I want to make sure we cover and give you plenty of opportunities to talk. Um, so I know you mentioned about your daughter Aviva, and like that seems like the fundamental why for avocado health. Uh, if you want to just share with listeners a little bit more about that story, and
Sure.
like why that, how that, not just like that event, which I know was really hard, but how that, like what the transition was from like that event and then leading to wanting to build this company with Hans.
Sure. Yes. So, to anyone out there listening, you may or may not know, but I, first and foremost, mom of five children, which in and of itself is a challenge.
Yeah.
So know kind of the parenting challenges in and out for, even this morning trying to do it all myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when we had our third child, Aviva Lilia, she was born full term, lovely on January 5th, 2020,
Mm.
right before COVID hit. But around 9 days old, she woke up from about a 3 hour nap and didn't want to nurse. And thankfully, as kind of a third time mom at that point, I knew that something was strange. She should want to nurse. And I kind of touched her nose and I realized that her nose was a little cold. So I took her body temperature and realized her body temperature was low, which I didn't actually realize was such a bad thing. Like I feel like you only hear as parents about high body temperatures. But thankfully, I had this document from the doctor's office that I had brought home right next to me. And I looked at it and I saw, oh, well, high body temperatures are bad, but also low body temperatures are dangerous. And I feel very grateful because our neighbor was an ER doctor and she was an ER doctor who worked part-time because she had little kids she was taking care of as well. So she was home. So I was able to text Appa and she came over and she took a look at Aviva and did all her vitals and said, she looks okay to me, but I would probably send her into the ER just to be sure. And she was
Hmm.
even able to like call ahead to the ER, let them know we were coming. And I bring up that story because it really made me realize one, the tremendous privilege I had to have a neighbor who is a doctor that you could just call, the
Hmm.
privilege that she and I both had that she was home, right?
Yeah.
Because most of my friends who are doctors are working 80, 90-hour weeks. You barely see them, let alone
Hmm.
be able to get a hold of them, right? Um, and that, I was lucky enough to still have that document like half the time, right? You come back from the hospital after a child, like everything's everywhere. You don't know what things are. They hand you this baby and they're just like, good luck.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's a big part of our story because that's what we're trying to help with, is just having that constant provided access for parents to be able to literally ask any question that they have about parenting and get a evidence-based response from only the most trusted and vetted information that was hand selected by clinicians. And as we, as we had Aviva's lovely life, we had 5 more hospitalizations, and she was always happy and loving and growing between them. So it really perplexed the doctors, and to this day, no doctor has an answer for us. But on the 6th hospitalization, when she was just 10 months old and 13 days old, her heart went out, and really no explanation, no cause of death. She would just have these bouts of really low heart rate, low body temperature, and trouble breathing, which the last doctor left us with that, those are all things controlled by the brainstem. So he said, if
Hmm.
I were you, I would just keep an eye on rare brain diseases that are controlled by the brainstem. And so, you know, losing a child is one of the hardest things that any parent can ever face. And, we learned from that experience that many of the parents around us had also lost a child, right? Whether
Hmm.
that was, during pregnancy, at delivery, afterwards, or in an accident years later. It's more common than I think we know, and more common than definitely we talk about.
Hmm.
So even in our immediate circle of friends and families, there were 2 other families who had been through it and were really able to walk us through and guide us. But it's a very lonely experience. And I think that was my experience from the get-go having children, is just really feeling very overwhelmed, very anxious overall, and not realizing that I was getting postpartum anxiety and not knowing what it was. Because really
Hmm.
all you ever hear about is postpartum anxiety, depression, and you usually only hear about it in mom, when in our case, it was my husband who got postpartum depression. And we had to do our own research on that to realize that that was a thing and that that was something he was experiencing. But I didn't know postpartum anxiety was a thing until 3 years into parenting, when I was like, in my second child, being like, something's off. Like my brain just won't stop. Like it's just going like this, and it won't stop. And I realized, okay, I need to get help. But from that moment when you realize you need to get help to actually getting help was probably like 5 months, because it just felt so overwhelming to get help. And so even from our first child, my husband and I both being very entrepreneurial, we're always thinking like, how do we make parenting easier? How do we make this better? How do we make this easier? And then after we lost Aviva, there was a lot of grieving, a lot of time, to kind of carve out a new life for ourselves. And I think, as anybody who's had like a very tragic loss in their life, the saying is like, there was a Cristina before I lost Aviva, and there's a Cristina after I lost Aviva, and very different people. And
Hmm.
in many ways, even though this is really hard to hear when you first lose a child, I heard it on a podcast when I first lost a child. Um, the experience does change you, and I do think you become a better version of yourself, whether that takes months, years, decades. But it has given me a much greater appreciation for life, and for my living children, and being present with them and with my friends and family. But it also gave us direction. You know, Hans and I both felt very motivated that we wanted to support parents, and in my case, you know, particularly women and mothers and birthing mothers, wanted to support them, and we wanted to make it easier. And he kind of immediately pivoted to the developmental health space and worked for another award-winning app that helped parents track their development and any flag any concerns or medical issues sooner to get the support. Um, and kind of what they found there was that, you know, apps are wonderful. And if you are like the two or three apps that are extremely popular and every parent downloads them, they can be really useful. But most apps, especially for very, you know, busy parents, it's the second you ask someone to download an app, you lose about, you know, 70% of your interested participants. And then the likelihood that they'll actually go back to that app is so small. Engagement can be
Mm-hmm.
very, very hard to drive for apps. So our kind of aha moment was when we said, you know, I used to tell him even like, can you just text me? If you would text me an activity to do with my 2-year-old, I will do it. But if you
Mm,
want me to go into your app, find an activity, rate the activity, post a picture of me doing the activity, like, I'm never going to do it. I'm just too
yeah,
busy. I'm
yeah.
just too busy. And so that was kind of the aha moment for us was, okay, with this new innovation of AI, you know, how do we kind of build an AI tool that only brings in the most evidence-based information and that texts parents so that it's right literally at their fingertips. So that's, you know, what we're building at Avocado Health AI.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, and yeah, sorry again for your loss. It still is like such a tough story. I mean, obviously, it's not tough as tough anywhere near as tough for me as it is for you. But I just admire and I really like the point about the shift from the Christina before to the Christina after, and how these traumatic events can just create a shift in perspective and a shift in priorities of like what's actually important in life and what we want to work towards and other people the type of people we want to help, and how much more powerful a driver that is than just purely economic gains or anything to do with reputation, which tends to suck a lot of us in prior to stuff like this happening. And then when
Yeah.
something like this happens, it's just the how finite life is and how important it is to be working on something that's important and also is potentially a big problem for other people too. Like I think some people get sucked into too much of the personal why, and it's almost more about a collective why that we need to tap into,
Mm-hmm.
which is also great that you guys are tapped into. Well, there's other parents too that obviously are having challenges with parenting and need a convenient solution to help coach them on that. um, that's all amazing. I appreciate you sharing all that. I guess what so you guys have launched and you had this. How has it been since you guys have launched? Like, what has I know you guys had some time in development, and then you were focused on like I attended the launch event, the launch party, and you guys were promoting the app there, or not the app, rather the text experience. How has it been since you guys launched? What have you guys been focused on, and what are you guys focused on in the next few months?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Well, I think the launch was kind of centered around direct to parents, which we always knew would be part of the model, but wouldn't be kind of our biggest lever we would pull on at first.
Mm,
And so what the lever we've been focusing more on is more that B2B, and particularly, and this is kind of where I came in, the focus around talking and partnering with parent advocacy organizations and
mm,
parent nonprofit organizations. So um, even before my husband and I started working together on Avocado Health, we've actually run our own nonprofit together for the last 11 years,
mm,
with one of our best friends who is from Cameroon and who I went to graduate school with. And so we help students gain access to scholarships to universities all over the world, and then after we lost Aviva, we started an Aviva Women in Science program, and actually focused on maternal health programming as well in Cameroon. So giving scholarships to young women studying to become neonatologists, funding projects around community public health in Cameroon that dealt with pregnant mothers and infants. So around kind of prenatal screening and around education around epilepsy and other issues postpartum. And so we'd been in that space, and I really saw the need. And one of the biggest places we started was like, how do we support parents, right, in Cameroon, to have quicker access to this? So some of our earliest adapters were in Cameroon, parents in Cameroon, doctors in Cameroon, using Avocado Health to answer all these kind of day-to-day questions. And I said, I really think like for parents like you and I, right, like who may have friends that are doctors or nurses, who may have neighbors who have the resources at our fingertips, maybe have, a parent that's living with you to help raise your child, or comes often, having a tool like Avocado Health is definitely a nice to have. But when for parents who have a far less resources, aren't maybe are hours from hospital, or aren't don't have a doctor or nurse easily in their network, I think it really becomes a must have, right? Like,
Mm,
and for the organizations that serve those families, I believe deeply that it becomes a must have, right? Because you want to serve these families as best you can. And what's the best way you can do that is by providing that 24/7 support and care. So that's what I've really focused on since kind of since the get-go was, okay, how do we find the organizations that are really making impact, that they're serving, perhaps hundreds, thousands of families, um, and that really want to be able to provide that 24/7 around the clock care to those parents. And thankfully, we found our kind of first anchor partner, um, design innovation partner, fairly quickly, I would say, and that is Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies Coalition of Hawaii, who've been an incredible partner. They were there at the launch party. I don't
yeah,
know
I
if you've
remember.
a
Yeah.
chance to meet Lama.
Yeah, she's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, super lovely. And so they serve over 5,000 families across all the Hawaiian islands, with
Hmm.
three centers and three different islands. And so they were already looking at doing, providing around the clock support. And their founder told me, like, literally, I've been looking for a tool like this for years. Like, this is what we need. This is
Wow.
really excited about this. And she is incredible, really top-notch, smart, has her MBA from UC Irvine, really forward, innovative thinker, with three children herself. And we jumped on it. We've been working hand in hand together to make it like the most useful tool for their families. So the first thing we did was, essentially, whenever we get a new partner, is we try to digest all of their preferred local resources, so that if a parent asks, like, I'm I don't have any food to feed my children tonight, like, what do I do? That
Yeah.
it will pull in like the closest and most trusted, food bank near them. Or, I'm
Yeah.
all out of diapers, what do I do? It'll pull in the closest diaper bank, trusted diaper
Yeah.
bank. Or, can I get a free crib? Which they offer, that it will pull up the local site where they could get a free crib from Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies.
Hmm.
So the first thing we did with them, and we're doing with all of our partners, is let's digest all of your most trusted local resources. And also, maybe there are additional resources that you have created or that you trust, for your families, and make sure we digest them into our AMI model, so that when your parents, one of the first thing you do is you enter any children you have or any pregnancies, and then your zip code. So once we have your zip code, then we're able to, give you the preferred local resources. And what's cool about AI and what's cool about our model is that it can kind of infer the question behind the question. So if you ask something like, okay, my child's almost one and they're not walking, it will kind of infer that you're concerned about a delay, maybe a developmental delay. So it will answer your question. It will provide two local resources, two articles that relate to that question, and then it will pull in like the early childhood intervention centers near you and say, if you're concerned, you can give these folks a call.
Hmm.
And most people don't even know that these intervention centers exist.
Hmm.
And that if you're able to get support for your child, if you are concerned about a delay, if you do it before 3, it's free. But if
Hmm.
you don't find out till after 3 that your child has a delay, then it's on you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's really important to get the kind of support early. So that's one example with like delays, but we also
Delays are like speech delays or.
yeah, speech delays, or if there's concern about autism, if you're concerned about ADHD, if you're concerned about anything, walking, any sort of delay.
Hmm.
So for
Hmm.
even for our fourth child, she had a speech delay, so we were able to contact our early childhood intervention center, get special services, and she would have a speech therapist come once a week until she like her speech actually did quite catch up. But again, those services were provided free if it's found before 3.
Hmm.
So we try to kind of flag those local resources, and then, for example, if if I were to say like, oh, I just had a baby and I'm feeling down, it would also get that perhaps there's some issues around postpartum depression, and it will pull up like the behavioral health specialist in your area, and you could just call. So it kind of
Hmm.
takes away, like I mentioned before, like when I was feeling anxious, it took me 5 months to find the help I need. But now, there's the phone number right there. Call, see if their availability. And then what I'm really excited about too is we're working on a partnership with another startup that we met at one of the conferences. And pretty soon we'll be able to offer to all Avocado Health users that they would actually get 12 free, low, free or low cost therapy sessions with training therapists
Hmm.
through this partnership. So we're excited that, you could call that number, or you could get your free 12 sessions right away.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we're able to infer kind of the need behind the need, and then match it to the resources.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it gives more relevant information first from a locality base and second from like a specificity of the child's age and the resources
Yeah.
that are around and how they can avail of them. I'm interested in, so the distribution strategy is interesting to me. So you've got this partnership with this nonprofit in Hawaii, and they essentially offer the app for free for their, but they pay you like a blanket fee, or how does it
Yeah.
work?
Yeah. So actually they're white labeling us.
They're white labeling
So
it. Oh,
yep.
okay.
So it will look like the parents are texting their parent line is what they call it, texting their parent line, but it will be powered by Avocado Health. So we're kind of in the
Okay.
back in the background, which
Yeah.
we're excited about because essentially, this kind of tool is only as good as how much people trust us. And we understand that the trust is often with these organizations who've been supporting them for years and helping them out when times are tough. So they have the trust, and we kind of have the AI and the innovation. So we're like,
Mhm.
let us bring our AI and innovation to just to supplement and complement and strengthen the impact you're having with your families already,
Mhm.
essentially. And then yes, and then they just pay. It depends on the organization, but pay a small fee per user um, to gain access to the services.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So then but that's your strategy essentially, is to get in front of these organizations right now.
That's that's a big part of our strategy right now. And then we're also looking a lot, focusing a lot of time and attention into the rural health transformation program. I'm not sure
Hmm.
if you've heard of it or know about it, but essentially a lot of grant money has been just doled out to each state, most of the states, to focus on making transformational impact in rural health. And
Okay. Cool.
yeah, and that's where we think we can add a lot of value is that, like I said, if your hospital is 3 or 4 hours away, like you need to know if this is an emergency before you're making that drive, right?
Hmm.
Or you need to figure out if you could just treat whatever it is at home. And 40% of ER visits are actually preventable for children. So it's
Mm.
like, how do we identify, what are those like most preventable things and help parents learn, like, don't make that 3 hour drive. Like you can treat this fever at home,
Mm,
or what to look out for when you need to make that drive, or unfortunately, a lot of pediatric units are closing down, a lot of maternity wards are closing down. So it's like, I do believe that this tool can be really supportive in environments where there might not be a hospital or clinic or doctor's office very close. So
mm,
that's been a big part of our strategy, is trying to identify similarly organizations in those states that are prioritizing maternal health, and a lot of them are.
mm-hmm.
And they're also looking at a big part of it is adapting new technology, and AI. So we're saying, hey, let's find those organizations who are or are applying, going to apply and say, why don't you white label our services? We'll be the AI tech innovation partner, and
Mm-hmm.
this can be one of your great innovations to expand rural health access.
Got it.
So that's something I'm really passionate about, especially working with the tribal communities. I
Mm-hmm.
had the great fortune and privilege to work for the Obama administration at the U.S. Department of Agriculture,
Oh,
where we
cool.
actually focused on rural community health, rural community development programs. A lot of that was community health, and we worked on the promise zones, which were areas where that had more than 20% poverty for the last 30 years. And so we at USDA managed the rural and tribal promise zones. So that was one of the best career experiences of my life, and work that I just deeply loved and moved me. So I'm excited again to perhaps work with some tribal nations as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So it sounds like you guys are trying to get these big distribution partners that then either through white labeling, they'll offer it into all of their, I mean, that's a very valuable distribution strategy. Many startups are not operating like that or scared to operate like that. They're like either doing it very, very manually themselves or not at all, or expecting the product to just take off by some sort of magic. Um, I'm curious, like when you do, for example, with the Hawaiian organization, how do you guys have metrics on the usage? Are you guys on like what sort of are you getting much feedback from the actual users and working closely with them on the like actual product and delivery of the app? Or is it kind of like you just build it and then they just like they offer it and then you guys move on to another partner?
No, so great question. So right now where we are, so we're officially launching direct to families June 5th in Hawaii. So I'll be flying out there to get people signed up.
Nice.
Um, yeah, which we're really excited about. My birthday's June 7th, so it just feels
Oh,
perfect.
that's
And my daughter's
great.
June 6th, so we're gonna
Great.
celebrate it.
It's great timing to be in Hawaii for
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, but essentially, what we're doing now is that their whole team is using the Avocado Health, and they're like finding any gaps, any holes, any things where like, oh, we would prefer this resource, not that resource, or this is not the way we would like it to answer this question or this question. We're just trying to identify any gaps and make any changes, and
Mm-hmm.
also make sure that we realized, like, for example, that we hadn't included the addresses of their clinics. We added
Mm-hmm.
those and things like that. Um, so kind of user-based testing with their team. And then, yeah, we plan on sticking through with them as an innovation partner once we launch. Like any problems we come across will change. If they want additional resources, we'll continue on as that innovation partner, and supporting them to make it, really kind of human-centered design, and make sure that the families feel supported. And one of those, for example, was, you know, it seemed pretty clear that this was like a question and answer service. So like ask things as a question, right? But
Mm-hmm.
one of the first things their staff did was ask us statements, because they know a lot of their families are just going to say no diapers.
Mm.
That's what they're going
Yeah.
to text. And at
Yeah.
first, like our system was like no diapers. Like what do you want me to do with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we realized that we had to start interpreting statements as questions, and
Mm.
say, and then kind of infer the question behind the statement, which is no diapers,
Mm.
like help me,
Mm.
and then, now
Interesting.
if you say no diapers, it will give you like the nearest diaper bank. And they were saying like, hey, a lot of ours, parents are young, like they're just going to text, like, will it be able to interpret like, kind of like different like teenage style terminology, or youth terminology. So we've had to like incorporate that too. Like if someone gives, what is the word for that? When if you use like LOL or something, can it interpret that? So yeah,
Mhm.
they've been trying to model like how they expect their families will ask questions, which is
Hmm.
different from like how I would ask them.
Right, right.
Um,
Good point.
so yeah, so I assume once I we're kind of prepared for once we launch to hundreds and potentially thousands of families, that some of those questions we're gonna have to keep adjusting that. Like we're not answering the right question because it's phrased the way we weren't expecting, or things
Yeah,
like that. So we'll
but it's a
work with
good
them.
it's a good thing because the product will get better
Exactly.
from like seeing that real world. There's nothing really that can prepare you from just actually people just looking at the app, trying it for 5 seconds, and then just being like, oh, it doesn't solve my problem. Okay, great. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's like
Yeah.
totally normal. It's really rare for an app to be like super smooth. Even like right now, I'm using Granola to it's a notes app and an AI trainer, and like it's like super smooth to the point that I doesn't even feel like I'm using a product, right? Because so many things have just
Mm,
been figured out,
yeah.
where it's so integrated into my workflow that I don't even need to think about it. But I do believe the only way that a product can arrive at that, even these days, is that very, very close one-to-one, like ideally like physically in person in the room,
Yeah.
because then you can really see like all the kinks. And this is one of the things I was explaining to Hans. I'm like, oh, I don't know, like I get where you're coming from with this texting thing. I think that's the right idea, but the implementation, I think there's some kinks, which I'm sure you're aware of, that I think need to be like ironed out, so that that process will give you a lot more insight on like what exactly those kinks are, because there's not, but everybody, no one gets it right the first time. It's really hard.
Yeah.
um so but I think it's great that you guys have that distribution, so that you have they have the yeah, they have the audience to work with, because if you don't have the audience to work with to like actually manually test, then it's really hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard to see. You can hire the right product people and everything, but even they need that up close and personal. And then it becomes really obvious, right? It's like, oh my God, like of course, like it needs to work like this, or of course it needs, like you saying, like, and you just can't predict the amount of things that the market is going to throw at you. Like even like ChatGPT in the beginning, like you would ask a statement and it was like, what are you talking about? But now
Yeah.
you say a statement and it's like, oh, of course, yeah. The fastest way to get to the beach is jump on the I-8. You're just like, get to the beach. And it's
Yeah.
like, what? And you're like, it's like, but now it's like, oh, of course, yes, the fastest way to get to the beach is jump on the eight and
Yeah.
like watch out for traffic or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and it like just gets
Exactly.
it because it's been pummeled basically by the
Yes.
market. And the market has just been like so aggressively testing it.
Yeah. So
They've been able
true.
to see both like through
Yeah.
data, through
Yeah.
analytics, but also like manual one-on-one testing, how people are using it, and just watching people so closely is really the only way to get that. So I think the faster you can get in front of people who are active. I think the other thing is like there's a difference between like simulated user testing, where
Hmm.
someone is either being paid to test the product,
Yeah.
and someone who's like, I need diapers now.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to mess around. They're not going to be like, if it's not giving them an immediate answer, they're just going to Google Maps, or they're just going
Mm.
to drive to the store. They're not going to like, it's like there's an immediate project on their to-do list. If this isn't like, there's like a diaper emergency going on of some sort, and
Yeah.
like they need to solve that right now, they're not going to waste time, right? They're just going to,
Yeah.
they're going to, which is good for you guys because you get to see, okay, where are we falling short, or where are the gaps in the product that we need to solve for,
Yes.
um, and then that will just help the product improve, because that's really what makes it. I think the distribution is one thing, but then it needs to obviously be a sticky product that people actively use. But you're in a good position because you have this audience built into these organizations, and obviously once you get one or two, then there's opportunities to get more.
Yeah.
um and I think so. Am I correct in saying that you guys are not really like directly going after consumers right now, like
I mean,
wanting?
we have a few like things in the fire. Like we
Yeah.
did we did a partnership with a company called Oh Baby Boxes. So
Mm.
when they have like a when you get a new baby, you sign up for a subscription and you get like a box every month.
Hmm.
And so our we have like a kind of like a flyer that goes in the box that says,
Mm.
talks about avocado health and gives a discount code.
Okay,
Or
nice.
no, it gives you a free 2 months free, 2 or 3 months free.
Yeah.
So and that's like 3,000 boxes a month or something. So we do have like other things for D2C. And we have our live parenting workshops every week that are open to anyone and free, and you can watch recordings online. So, we're trying to support parents, whether or not you have the means to pay to get these access to these resources.
Mhm.
Um, so we have a few other things in the fire for D2C. And all of our workshops give like a discount code and things like that. But our
Yeah.
main focus for now has been more trying to find these partner organizations and not just nonprofit and parent advocacy. Like there's even like baby brands that also want to white label because they want to be able to, be that go-to for the families they serve, right? And have more interaction points.
Hmm.
So can't name any names yet, but like just imagine you're a baby product and you want to be the number one source of information for the families that you serve,
Hmm.
right? So there are companies too that we're talking to about white labeling, and then there's individuals we're talking about white labeling with. Essentially, it's like imagine like you have this huge following and you're this parenting expert. Like, how great would it be if like your fans, your followers can be texting you or like an AI version of you and get your responses, right? And get your kind of leverage all everything that you've produced as a parenting expert and pull from that as well as our database, essentially.
Hmm.
So we're kind of, yeah, leaning hard on the white label. And then I think as our own kind of trust gains and people start to know who we are and believe in us, then it will be easier to build out like our own brand.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, whatever, I guess wherever the demand is, right? You got to follow that. Wherever you're
Yeah.
seeing people actively pulling. I think the problem statement is really good. The clarity, um, like it definitely draws me in. And there's this interesting. You got some interesting stats about 40% of ER visits could be avoided. I think that's going to be really interesting to, of course, if you have like very clear transformation of like and avocado health did things that have, we have specific cases where a parent was complaining about something or asking a question about something, and we pointed them to a resource that stopped them from, they were like, I want to go to the ER because my son's ear is sore or my son is crying. And it's like, you just like, they're clearly just teething or whatever it is.
Sure.
And they don't go to the ER because the son is just teething. Like, that's obviously like some sort of, those are the stories I would be looking for. Those are the transformations, the testimonials that I would be looking for as you start to like, and that will ideally all come out naturally if you're user testing really, really closely. Like if you're really up close and personal with people in Hawaii, then you'll be able to see like you can just pull that out, right? You can just see like,
Yeah.
okay, they had a specific problem and then I came in and I solved it. It's easy to say from the outside, like, oh, just get results. It's like hard to like, it's hard to quantify, it's hard to like, but that is really like, that is the goal of every startup needs like 10 to 50, like before anybody starts to talk about funding or like scaling to an insane extent, like every startup needs to start with, okay, we have 10 to 15 case studies where this very clearly solved a real problem for somebody. And from
Yeah.
there, it's like, that's why Paul Graham always says, like, do things that don't scale, because really, unless that core, it's like, and this is where people with investment get a little bit, the investment landscape is very tricky to navigate because the startup needs to present the idea in a way that it's such a huge market to the point that them saying like, and we have 15 customers sounds like it's cheapening or making it seem like the market's not that big.
Yeah.
But it's like we needed to get those. So it's like for example, like I had a founder who has like this light, and he's got about 50 or 20 or 30 pre-orders for this light that he's building. And the advice was like, don't say that to an investor. Like that's going to
Mm,
sound like you're not really that serious.
mm,
But from a business standpoint, that's super valuable. It means there is some real, like for something he hasn't even built yet, there's
yeah,
some real demand there. But that almost sounds like, okay, this is just not a very investable product to an investor.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's tricky to navigate like what you need to do and then what you need to say to investors. And
right.
then what can happen is like when you're speaking that language of invest, like what investors need to hear, then the business starts to get steered towards what the investors want to hear. And that's not necessarily what's most beneficial for the business. For sure, it's really good to have distribution channels, but when they don't necessarily align with like when there needs to also be like results on top of that, like specific
Mm,
case studies. And I'm still learning this in my own business too, like just how I'm like I need to be very like there needs to I've had good results with my founders, but when I tell people about it, they're like, oh, that doesn't sound like it sounds good, but it's like it's also it needs to be very clear like where they came from, like where they
mm,
started is
yeah.
also very clear, very important, because then the delta, like some of these parents might not be in a position to be like amazing like soccer mom, like in like just like running like firing on all cylinders, like three kids with a bunch of after school activities and like super clean clothes and like a real nice image. But just the fact that they're okay, they were like holding down three jobs, and the
Yeah.
kid was like malnourished, and the kid was like unhealthy. And then because of avocado health, it saves them time so that the kid is now at least nourished and healthy. Like maybe they're still not doing soccer and painting and music, but that's still a transformation. So that's the other thing I'm learning with my transformation was like early stage technical founders, and like they're so avoidant of social media and marketing. They're so avoidant of putting themselves out there that even like going to a networking event and like sharing about their business and confidently being able to articulate their business in like 10 to 15 words, so they're not losing people with
Mm,
like minutes and minutes of meaningless technical jargon and complexity. And like they are posting consistently on social media, and they are getting traction on social media and attention, and their user base is growing, but they're not like funded, and they're not like you know doing like 100K revenue. Like they're not, but it's still a transformation, right? Like
right. Yeah.
it's still they've still massively improved as a result of working with me.
Yeah.
uh
Of course. That makes sense.
and like these are all things, so it's like what are the where are you, like it's really about like I think meeting people where they're at and then finding a way to convey that transformation from like, okay, this is where they were at and then now they're here because of what we did.
Yeah.
And that, but it's tricky because sometimes it's like, well, one person like turned into like this insane success, and then this other person like had like seemingly like less success, but they didn't, it was because of where they were at, right? Like it was
Yeah.
because of where they started from, that it seems like it's less. So it's tricky to like convey the value in that way where it's like, well, I want to share both, but it's like, well, one sounds way more impressive. um and like
Good.
how do you like, but that ideally all comes from their words. And like if you are able to ask the right questions,
Yeah.
then it's easy for them to say, and then it's like, oh, I get it. Like they were really struggling, like they were really really like stuck on this problem, and then my product came in and it stopped them from, they started to thrive as a result, and they were further along. And if you can ask the right questions and structure it that way, then it's easier to formulate those case studies.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And one thing when we've talked to, eventually we'd love to get, what we were excited about is that, when our nonprofit in Hawaii, they work hand in hand with the Department of Health, and Department of Health's, saw the innovation, they were really excited about it and said like, oh, we'd love every
Hmm.
parent in Hawaii to have this tool. And and that's kind of where we see the vision going, like getting more into departments of health and different health plans and things like that. And we did talk
Nice.
to one health plan, and they were like, if you could get people to show up to their prenatal and postpartum appointments and like
Yeah.
their doctor's appointments for their children, like, oh, we would be all about this, right? Because
Oh,
that's like the
wow.
big challenge that they're having, right? Is they can't even get people to show up, right? And
Wow.
I don't know the exact figure, but like I think it's something pretty dramatic, like only like a very small percent of people actually make it to their 6 week postpartum visit. I remember when I
Wow.
heard it, it was like kind of shocking how many
Wow.
people don't go, right? So
Why? Because they're just busy or
I don't know, a whole slew of issues. Maybe it's
yeah.
transportation, maybe they're working, maybe they're busy, maybe they don't feel good, maybe they're depressed, they don't want to leave the house. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe they don't know that it's that big a deal, right? Like
Yeah.
no big deal, right? So um, if and then like even us, like we've like forgotten that 9 month appointment, right? Like because like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in the beginning you're like, okay, it's like every 2 weeks, and then it's every month, and then it's like 6 months, and then you think, oh, a year. And like we've forgotten that there was a 9 month we were supposed to do.
Right,
So
right,
like
right.
it's just like, and so that's what they said. Like if you can get people to show up to appointments, like we'll believe in this innovation, right? So
Yeah.
that's another thing that we're looking at too. So in the next month, we'll be rolling out developmental milestones. So like based on your child's age, we'll send you text messages and like activities that you can do and things to look out for. And then also we're working with our therapist on messaging for the whole pregnancy cycle. So like weekly messaging that goes out while you're pregnant, kind of checking in, reminding you of resources, reminding you of checkups, checking in on
Hmm.
your checkups, helping you prepare for your checkups. So to try to, help people get to those appointments, and then be better prepared for them, right? Like how many times did you show up to an appointment when you all were pregnant and be like, what am I supposed to ask? I don't know. Like,
Hmm.
what symptoms should I be looking at for? Is this normal? Is that normal? Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and again, there's just so many pregnancy appointments that it's just, it gets lost. You miss them, you forget about them. So yeah, so we're just trying to like, I mean, to your point of like realizing what KPIs are important to people who would pay for this potentially, and then just trying to develop content that like meets those KPIs and then measure them. It's a big part of what we're doing. So we're building kind of the portal for this nonprofit and other organizations and other pilots, and making sure that we're measuring and tracking what they need, to keep winning grants, to get more grants for this, to get grant applications, and to better serve their families. And then on our end, like, what do we need to know? Like, do we need to know, like, did this stop you, prevent you from going to the ER? Or, sometimes it's the opposite. Like the case I had where it was like the baby was 5 months old, all my kids were had colds, it's my fifth child, and she's wheezing.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, oh, no big thing. She's just wheezing. And, Avocado Health is
Hmm.
like, how long has Violetta been wheezing? And I'm like, 2 days. And they're like, this is an emergency, go to the
Yeah.
ER or call your pediatrician. And I was like, oh shoot, this is an emergency.
Yeah.
And like I called my pediatrician
Great.
right away, and they're like, "Oh yeah, she's wheezing. Bring her in."
Oh, wow.
And it turned out she had RSV and an ear infection, and they immediately put her on antibiotics. And I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, whoops!"
Yeah, yeah.
Like fifth time mom, I was just like, "No big deal."
Great.
So
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes it pushes you for that extra care, and then sometimes, like most of the cases I have are personal, but or people who've been using it. But like, my daughter had a really bad fever when we went skiing, and it had
Hmm.
been 48 hours, and I was starting to freak out. Like, I'd give her medicine, it would work, but then she'd get the fever back again. And it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm freaking out because it gave her Tylenol and it'd been 20 minutes and she was still hot. Her
Hmm.
temperature was still up. Didn't know what to do. And I told Hans, I was like, we can take her to the hospital, dude. And he's like, are you serious? And I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know. It's been 48 hours. Like, it's not going down. The medicine's not working.
Hmm.
And of course, like nobody wants to go to the hospital at 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
morning. And when you're skiing, you don't even know where it is or where the clinic,
Yeah.
all the things. And we're like, let's just text Avocado Health. And what we did, I found out like, oh, like medicine sometimes can take up to an hour. They're like, give an hour for the medicine to work.
Oh,
At her
cool.
age and at the temperature level, it wasn't an emergency. And
Hmm.
so just that like reassurance, like, oh shoot, I thought it was like if it doesn't work in 20 minutes, it's wrong. So I
Hmm.
waited another 20 minutes and her fever broke and she was
Great.
cool and she was just slept through the night. And the next day she was perfectly fine, like
Yeah.
running around jumping. And I'm like, oh my God, we could have spent the whole
Yeah.
night at the hospital, right? But I just that knowledge that I didn't know that it could take up to hour and actually sometimes 2 hours for the medicine to work was enough
Hmm.
to like save us that ER visit, right? So sometimes it tells you you got to go, and sometimes it's like, hey, you can do it at home. And then sometimes just routine questions like, what do I do on a rainy day with my
Hmm.
kids when I have to work? How do I keep them
Yeah.
entertained on the plane? Any of those things.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, no, I would lean into those stories are great. Yeah. Super clear. Yeah. Transformations. And yeah, I really enjoyed the last one, especially about her wheezing and going to the like either going to the ER or not going to the ER. It's
Yeah.
like a huge difference, like making sure that's the right call. So awesome. Cool. All right. Well, we're a little bit over, so I want to respect your time. But if there's anything else you wanted to share about anything else we didn't cover, that you'd like to talk about for a few minutes, or if
Yeah.
there's a way that people can find you,
Yeah.
preferred social media channels or email or anything like that,
Yeah.
then now would be a good time to mention that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, a few things from the San Diego startup community. I mean, we'd love for folks to test it. So if you want to test it, we could give you a free code, and everybody gets 7 days free anyhow.
Yeah.
But we can give you a free code to test it. So if you're a parent, you got a newbie, or you're pregnant, or you just want to try it out, like we'd love to have you try it out. And if you know organizations that are really supporting families, we'd love to make connections, especially if there's like a rural or tribal connection. So thank you to the community out there if you got it. And yeah, you could find us at on Instagram at avocado underscore family underscore health, avocado family health, LinkedIn. Um, these are the big channels, and we have our weekly workshops. So join them; they're awesome. Get some
Hmm.
really one-on-one parenting coaching and advice and tools, and they're great. And they're all the recordings are online too, so you don't if you can't join live, you can watch like a 15-minute clip and get what you need.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, and thank you so much for having us, or for having me,
Yeah.
and meeting with me.
The
I
royal.
learned a
Yeah.
lot in this session. I think you're great. I've learned a lot from you. Our few interactions, I've always got a lot out of it, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, happy to help. I'm really excited for your guys' project. So if there's
Thank
anything
you.
you need, if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out. I definitely have suggestions on how you guys can improve you guys have the distribution nailed down, which is great because that's what I preach.
Yeah,
But the product is can also be a good distribution channel.
yeah,
And that's where I think there's yeah, a lot of potential, especially in the onboarding friction.
yeah,
I don't know, I haven't checked it out since the launch, but that was like
yeah, yeah,
my main feedback was like, okay, this is cool once I get going, but it takes a while to get onboarded, which I'm sure you
right,
guys have looked at to an extent. But
yeah.
yeah, if you have questions, I can like, if you want, I can do another like run through, like a
Oh
screen run
yeah,
through of
yeah, that
that.
would be
I'm
great.
not sure if I sent Hans one of those where I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is what I would change. This is how I would tweak this.
Hmm.
Um, because I think there's sometimes when I'm looking at a product,
Yeah,
I think I can see things that, or just any sort of user tester can see things that maybe it's hard for someone who's been in the weeds of the product or has already onboarded on the product a long time ago. It's hard to see things from this is one of like from the first time user's perspective,
yeah, oh yeah,
like how it looks and how it operates when you've been already gotten really used to it and developed this sense for how to get around all of the kinks.
yeah,
And it's really important, like that first like ChatGPT or this granola app, like I was telling about, it needs to be just like bam, like I'm in.
yeah,
Like I didn't
yeah.
need, and there might be a lot of steps, but if they need to be smooth like butter, basically, that any there's not any friction basically. And one of the ways is like
Yeah.
getting